Hello, ladies and gentlemen. If you're watching this, and I hope that you are, this is OneGangstaRobot. Today, we're going to draw my life. In order for me to talk about my life, I kind of have to take it all the way back to the beginning when I was a little kid. I had a pretty good dad and a pretty good mom, and for the most part, for the beginning portion of my life, as far as I can remember, I was pretty relatively happy. We had a really nice house and a whole lot of land, and I used to play outside. This went on until I was really about 8 years old, and what I started to notice when I was about 8 years old was, well, that my parents didn't exactly get along. My mom and my dad, they used to fight and yell at each other all the time, and I didn't really like that very much, and eventually it got worse and it escalated, and my dad, he started to hit my mom, and well, she didn't like that very much, and she was a little crazy, so she started to hit him back. And this all led to one thing to another, and basically they did what a lot of people did, which is get divorced, and that was pretty sad. There was really no reconciliation, but later I'd find out that both my mom and my dad had some pretty bad habits, and my dad also had another girlfriend, so there was really no working it out at that point. Eventually we moved back to a place called McDowell County, West Virginia. It was pretty awesome because I got to go live with my dad, and I got to see my uncle and my grandma, and my mom, she married my dad's old best friend, Kirk, and God, he was awesome. I knew them my whole life, and my mom and my dad, they continued to argue a lot, but honestly, it wasn't that bad. Like, even though they fought, I was still pretty happy because I got to spend a lot of time with my uncle, and he taught me about video games and science, and told me I should read, and taught me all about computers, and the more I read, the more I loved it, and the more I got to play with computers, the more I liked technology, and he was just a pretty awesome role model in general. Eventually, something happened, and my dad got in trouble and got arrested, and while I was in the court proceedings, my mom basically, she decided that we should probably leave West Virginia. So her and my stepdad, they took me away from West Virginia, which made the rest of my dad's family pretty sad. After we left West Virginia, well, my mom and my stepdad, they really moved around a lot. I think I moved 8 times in my 7th grade year, and a lot of times before then. We pretty much did that for the next 4 years, but it was okay. My stepdad used to bring me comics, and he taught me how to fish, and made me love basketball, and even though I'd be confused, he'd try to help me through it. But him and my mom, they both had kind of the same habits that him and my dad had, and they did the same things, and they really weren't around a lot. So I was kind of left to be on my own a lot. And what I did was what my uncle taught me, which was read a lot of books, and I spent more time in my room, and I played more video games, and I did more and more of that, and I didn't really have friends because I was never in one place for a long time. Eventually something happened, and they got in some trouble, and my stepdaddy had to leave, so my mom, she decided we'd take a car ride to visit my sister in Alexandria. Well, while we were there, turns out some of the bad things she was doing caught up to her, and she got in trouble too. When they took her away, there's something you should know, that during the 4 years my mom was moving me around, and my sister, she actually got married to this guy. His name was Randolph. And at first, Randolph and I didn't really like each other very well, and we didn't really get along, but eventually I kind of came around, and he loved basketball like me, and we played all the time, and we spent all the time together playing video games, and he would tell me that I should write, and taught me to write poetry, and I still write poetry to this day because of that. He was the brother I never had, and it was pretty fantastic. So when my mom got taken away, well, I was kind of in a bad situation. I was alone, I was 12 years old, and I had nowhere to go, so I was homeless. But luckily for me, my brother and my sister, they came and found me, and they actually took care of me for a while. They took me back to their place, and I got to go live with them for a little while, and it was great. I got to spend time with my hero and learn more about poetry and writing and play a lot of video games, and we spent every day together, and it was just really fantastic. But unfortunately, they had just had a kid, and they couldn't really afford to keep me, so they got in touch with my grandma, and she got me a train ticket home, and I got to go back to West Virginia, which honestly I was fine with, because after 4 years I got to see my uncle and my grandma and spend time with my dad, and we stayed up all night talking when I got back. It was some of the best time of my life. my uncle started teaching me even more about computers, and I learned about hard drives and RAM and motherboards and all these things that I had no clue existed before, and it really expanded my knowledge base, and I read even more. And even cooler than that, I got to go back to school, and all my old friends actually remembered me, and it was pretty great. It was almost like I never left. Unfortunately, my dad still had a pretty bad problem. My mom came back to West Virginia when she got out of jail, and she was trying to find the right path and take a hard look in the mirror just like I was. And my dad and we didn't really get along because I was a lot like him, so eventually I got in a fight with him and I left. My mom, well, she got in a fight with my stepdad who couldn't get clean, and she wanted a better life, so eventually they split up. And as I grew up and got in high school, I got my own house, and I met a girl that was my best friend, and eventually I fell in love with her. And some time went on like that for at least a few years. I was pretty happy in my house, and then something happened to change my life forever. My brother, he got pretty sick. He had a brain tumor, and they were going to have to operate, and he called me the night of the operation, and he told me to just always be myself and don't let anyone ever change who I am. It was a pretty profound conversation, and the next day my mom called me and told me we lost him, and I didn't even know what to say, so I just hung up the phone and laid on the couch and cried for 3 hours. I was pretty sad that the guy that was pretty much my hero was gone. I just went on that way for a while, and about 6 months later, my mom and my stepdad got into a pretty big fight, and she said some things that she probably really shouldn't have said, and he ended up just kind of disappearing. We looked for him for 6 days, and on the 7th day, my dad and one of their mutual best friends found him. Turns out that, well, my stepdad was so sad about so many things in his life, he didn't decide he wanted to be here anymore, so he took his own life. And even 10 years later, I don't have the words to say how I feel about it. After that, I was even more depressed, and the girl that I was in love with decided I wasn't the same person anymore, so she decided to leave, which in turn pushed me over the edge and made me not want to be here anymore, so I took a lot of things that I shouldn't have, and at 19 years old, I almost died. And after that, I was in the hospital for a little while. I kind of got better, and then I got out, and I got to go live with my friend Jared. You might know as the Night Arrow, and honestly, he made me laugh more than anybody else in my life, and I don't think I've ever said it directly to him, but I was still in a pretty bad place. So if you're watching this, and I hope that you are, I just want to say thank you. You helped save my life. And then Jared and we actually moved in together, and it was pretty fantastic. We got to play World of Warcraft all the time, and Xbox One games when we weren't working, and it was awesome. And I started to date girls again, and I met some pretty cool ones. Some I'm still friends with, and, you know, just nothing worked out. And I also met some girls that treated me pretty bad as well, and I had to leave those behind and learn a lesson from it. But eventually Jared had to go off, and he moved off to Ohio, and eventually I decided to move off to Virginia. I was working for a coffee company, some of you probably know as Starbucks, and I took a promotion to go out there, and it was pretty cool, but I didn't really like it that much. And I met a girl out here that worked for the company named Brittany, and, well, I kind of really liked her, so I asked her out, but she didn't really like me much, but I kept asking anyways, and eventually she said yes. And we had some dinners and started to slowly talk, and then we had another dinner after that, and she started to actually hear me and listen a little bit, and went on like that for a while, date after date after date, and then eventually, before I knew it, she actually loved me back, and that was probably one of the best things that's ever happened to me in my life. Going forward, Jared actually ended up moving back out to Virginia with me, and we got to hang out more, and Brittany and we both got better jobs. We've had our ups and downs, but we've been going strong for almost 5 years now, and, well, I just want to say to that, if you're watching this, and I hope that you are, I love you. I couldn't imagine my life without you. I'm really happy that I get the chance to marry you one day and have children with you. And just, I want to say to everybody that is in my family that I don't get to see that much and don't get to talk to that much because I'm working or I'm off trying to live my life, that I still love you guys and I miss you guys all the time. I'm just really busy, and it doesn't mean that I don't think about you and don't miss you all the time, and that's pretty much that. Ladies and gentlemen, this is One Gangster Robot, and we just drew my life. If you like this, please subscribe, and also if you want some more videos, click over there. I hope to talk to you soon.